All right, so I'm Evangeline and I'm here with Gabrielle and just thought it'd be nice for everyone to hear, everyone out there who listens to this to hear anything you have to say about stillness or quiet. And the reason I thought to do this interview or this talk with you is just because it feels like a little bit of a conceptual idea, to be in stillness or quiet. And yeah, so what's been your experience with that? Anything you have to say about that?
So, stillness and quiet, I have learned that I can access them even when I have some big uh, emotional upset. Could be shame or fear, even anger. With you, Evangeline, in our sessions, I have been taught how to, or shown how to access this stillness around the feeling.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that way, I can be more in the stillness than in the feeling.
Mm.
It's not easy to describe because we don't really have words for them usually.
Yeah.
Just doing my best. So it's as if the feeling is in front of the stillness and I am in the stillness.
Right. So kind of like if I did a side demo of what you just said, it's like maybe when you're in a feeling when it feels really bad, it's like it's all through you, right?
Yeah,
And I mean, I think I'm saying I'm just sort of demonstrating this in case people don't fully understand. But what you're saying, I think, is like um then it's like here's this feeling and whatever that is, the energy of it, the emotion of it. And you kind of are like, oh, kind of this sinking in.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I even had a session where we worked on some very painful shame,
Hmm.
where we held the shame with the stillness for most of the session.
Yeah.
And at some point, the shame was almost like irrelevant or non-existent because I was so immersed in that stillness in the end. And
Hmm.
after that session, I felt like I could do that for many other feelings. I felt a
Uh-huh.
sense of empowerment for future um, huge emotions coming up.
Right. Yeah. And like I think this is super clear to me and I believe you, but I just want to make that distinction of like, okay, so here's the shame, right? And then we sat for so long in the stillness that the shame became, I think of it as like right proportions, because like that what you really are is the stillness. And we get our proportionality mixed up when we think we're like the shame. And so does that like it's so what I'm trying to say is it's not avoiding the shame. It's just, oh, the shame's actually this big. And I'm like, like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Whereas before I was in the shame, surrounded by the shame. The shame was taking all the space around me. I could only feel that one.
Hmm.
So it's quite amazing to then feel this sense of calm and peace. And yes, the shame is still there,
Yeah.
and it's much smaller, much more manageable.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I love that. Thank you. That's a great example. Um, and I don't know, I play around with this idea of like so in me a question is, is just being in the stillness and silence enough? Or does it like, because I think it's helpful for people often say, like, well, why would I want to do it? Right. So there's one good example of why it's like, oh, it made it completely a different experience to have the shame here once I moved into what I really was. right? But I also think there's like a deep call in ourselves, just it doesn't even need a why. It's like, oh, I want to be in the stillness and quiet. Does that speak to you or?
Yes, because in the end, when you have this experience of stillness and quiet at some point, and it can be quite soon, it's like, actually, this is the only thing that matters.
Mhm.
It clears the brain. Um, it just clears so much just being in it.
Yeah.
I feel when I'm consciously in that stillness, I don't have so much luggage attached to me, be it
Mhm.
like past or present thoughts. So that's enough in and
Yeah.
of itself. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's enough. Yes, I felt that too. It's just like, I think I could stay here forever.
Yes. If I could, I would. Maybe one day I can.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the great teachers, I was just reading some quotes by, I think it was by Nisargadatta, and he was saying how, well, it's more like it points to what would ever move me. So here's this, let's imagine which word I forget works better for you. Is it stillness or silence, or are they both kind of?
They both. Yeah.
So, okay, so if you touch it just a little, like I heard Katie once say, like, what would move me? And so what that makes me think is like, maybe we never have to move from it, even though we might be doing things.
Yes, when you say that at first, I think, what would move me? Not even this very scary event. And then I even think, not even this extremely exciting thought that I could start thinking and go with it. Even that is um, less worth than being in the stillness at some
Oh.
point. Yeah.
I am feeling like kind of a cheerleader for stillness right now. Like, yeah, yeah. I wonder if that's coming from stillness in me. Like, right? Is that in it? I'm sure you've heard that in your own exploration and spirituality, right? Like, how does stillness move? How does silence express?
Mm.
And so I'm just wondering for myself, like, is this like silence?
It can be. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, one thing I'd kind of like to try, if you feel comfortable with it, is what if, like, just right now, even if it doesn't happen, let's see if we could touch that quiet and stillness and just,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah. So just kind of let yourself open to that. How would you describe?
I feel like I'm going almost behind of my body.
Mhm.
It's a sense of pleasant heaviness that is bringing me to the ground. Um, yeah, some thoughts or feelings are there more like in front of my body, and the fact that I am linked to that heavy piece uh,
Mm,
makes it makes everything okay.
mm.
So it's a soft heaviness.
I love that heavy piece.
Mhm.
That's really good. Like I can feel that when you say that.
Mhm.
And for you, do you experience it? Like I start to experience it spreading out. I'm going back behind my body as well. Do you start to feel that heavy piece, like kind of, it's not just you, it's like you start to feel it as this sort of everything around you?
Yes, definitely. Like at least all the air in this room. And if I spread my awareness even outside of the room, I know it's there too.
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of want to stay here forever with you, but I also know how these go, how much
Yes.
people we want to watch. But is there anything like, like sometimes people just want to work, like, I just want to work on this issue, right? And then here's this course I'm offering, which is largely like, let's sink into quiet. So just in your own healing journey, is there anything you could speak to that? And it could be anything, like I'm not fishing for an answer.
I think that as we access the stillness, it helps us deal with the issues better than if we didn't have this stillness. I, uh, for me, it is very tricky to address my issues from a over agitated brain and feeling agitated.
Yeah.
So it's very useful for me to sink into that stillness before and during I I look at my issues. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. When you say that, I'm picturing this, like, to use the sideways thing, like, I think you said this was shame when we were doing that,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
right? But whatever it is, whatever issue someone might really want, like, yeah, it's causing them a lot of pain, a lot of stress. Of course, they want to look at that. So it's like, if we look at just sort of physically, what you're saying is like, otherwise, if you don't have access to the stillness, it's like, ah.
You're good at
I
yeah, you're
think
good
I
at
see what's true. Right. But then back here, it's like you get this three-dimensional perspective of the issue.
Yes, it makes me think of so many times you have led me to, let's say there's a situation that bothers me so much I can't get it out of my head. Well, we look at it, we look at who was there and where was it from this place of stillness. And
Mhm.
it makes such a difference. So
Yeah.
many things get revealed that I could not see because I was in it and getting anxious or mad about it.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely my experience too, and my experience with, working with you. Um, yes. So I feel like, again, yeah, stillness. Yeah, silence. It's like a worldly treasure that we haven't developed or we haven't plumbed yet. It's such a
Totally. Yeah.
huge resource, and I feel like it's like the oil reserve before we maybe that's a horrible metaphor, but like in terms of usefulness and power, you know, once you can plumb it and go down into it, it's like it's so powerful and useful. And
Maybe we haven't accessed it much because it's invisible, it's free, it's accessible to anyone. So,
different than oil.
yeah.
Although probably crashing down through all those layers of bedrock to get to it is a
Yeah.
apt metaphor, right? Because you do sometimes, like, I know, at least for me, like when I'm really agitated, if we link that to bedrock, it's like if I'm really agitated, that's like my bedrock of unconscious material, right? And sometimes it can quite a bit of kind of sincerity. I found sincerity for me helps to be like, and trust in my teachers who've guided me before, to be like, oh, okay, even though all I feel is this, agitation, identification, I'm just going to keep going down and using the cues I know that bring me to quiet.
Yes.
Yeah. So it is free and accessible. However, there's some parallel to bedrock, to 1,000 feet of bedrock.
Well, I wouldn't. It's been very useful to work with you because out of my on my own, I don't think I could I wouldn't just sit in my room and try to find the stillness when I'm so agitated. I did need your help for that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I certainly have I've been able to pass that on because I've gotten that help, from others. Had you had access to the stillness? Um, like you had touched that place, yeah? I think I remember that, like, when we first started together, it's like, I think you had already known about that and touched it.
Yes. Yeah, I have attended some retreats and followed some paths and read some books and went to some teachers conferences. Um, Yet I still needed help to have it more in my daily life, let's say.
Like practical application almost
Yeah.
when
Yes, because with you, we work on some visualizations that are very personal to me. Let's
Mhm,
say I'm anxious about a situation coming up.
mhm,
I can visualize it and be in the stillness when the situation happens in my mind.
mhm.
And that makes it so much easier than to tap into it when the real life happens.
Yeah, and I think you've done that time and time again.
Mhm.
I feel like every time I talk to you, you're like, "Oh, yeah, I did that." "Oh, yeah, that happened."
Good homework.
Next day, I did that. Same night. Yeah. Okay, well, it's been, lovely. I love talking about this with you and in general, so thank you very much.
Thank you.